All righty, why don't we get going here? Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We are really excited to share with you some amazing product advancements and innovations coming from Catchpoint. Uh, my name is Howard Beater. I lead product marketing here at Catchpoint. I'm really excited to be sharing the stage with my colleague Matt, who would love to have introduce yourself, Matt.
Thanks, Howard. Hi, I'm Matt Izzo. I'm Executive VP of Product here at Catchpoint. Like Howard, really excited to be here. We've got a lot of great things to talk about, a couple of quick demos as well. So stay tuned and thank you for your time today.
All right, thanks, Matt. And for your chatting pleasure and to help answer questions, we've got a great team of our lead product managers for our products standing by to help answer questions, as well as our resident IPM evangelist and author of the SRE report, Leo, standing by as well. So I'm sure they'll say hello. But let's jump in and see what we'll be talking about today. So today we're going to be covering a quick intro of what Internet Performance Monitoring is, or IPM. We'll talk about some of our new solution capabilities, our new platform capabilities. We'll talk about our great Global Observability Network. And hopefully we'll answer questions as we go. As Matt said, we've got a couple of exciting demos to share of some of the new products as well. So let's jump in. So Internet Performance Monitoring is what we do here at Catchpoint. We are one of the leaders in this space. And what IPM does is it gives you full visibility into the whole internet stack. Because, I mean, who can actually do business these days without leveraging the internet? The internet's become your new network, and the internet is really required for almost everything we do today, whether it's e commerce, whether it's as an employee being able to engage on Teams or Zoom, or even access any of your internal applications. Every website we access through the internet. All of the various applications we all work with, like Salesforce and SAP and Oracle and Infor, and on and on and on, all are accessed through the internet. So the internet's critical for business and it's critical to monitor. And what we do at Catchpoint is we deliver 5 key solutions supporting about 16 or 17 key use cases so that you can monitor all of these elements across your organization, whether it's your customer experience, which we all know is critical to your organization's success, whether it's your workforce experience, and you want to ensure that you're able to keep your employees engaged and productive the whole time. Website performance issues, we all know that if a website's slower, it's going to affect your revenue. And of course, when we're talking application experience, and you'll see some great detailed demos on how we're expanding that today, or network experience, all of this is critical to ensure your organization's success. And when we're talking success, you've got to be able to identify what those internet disruptions are faster so that you can get them fixed and everything resolved and everything back up as soon as possible. And we do this faster than anyone with IPM because what we're going to deliver for alerts really has no noise. If you get an alert, you know there's an issue and you can act on it immediately. You're not waiting for something like 20,000 errors before you get an alert. You're acting on it quicker, you're resolving it quicker, and in the end, it's going to save your organization money and help generate revenue. So, what we're going to be talking about is a whole list of new capabilities and new products. We're going to kick off with the Internet Sonar. We'll do a demo on Sonar. We'll get into our new tracing product. We'll see a demo of that, and we'll drive through all of these other amazing new innovations. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Matt and have Matt tell us a little bit about Sonar.
Sure, thanks, Howard. So just before going to the next couple of slides, I wanted to say that the challenge that we all have with digital services today, and whether that's you're watching this here or you're interacting with any other services that, like Howard said, is that those services, certainly the services that you provide, they rely on a lot of other third-party services out in the internet. And of course, the problem is that you don't own those, you don't control them, but you depend on them. You depend on them to deliver your services to your customers, and they're important. So that's what we call the internet stack. All of those services, those depending services that you use that are out there outside of your control in the internet. If they go down or if they suffer poor performance, your service is going to suffer too. So what Internet Sonar is intended to do is help you with that problem by giving you a live global view of internet outages and third-party services that you rely on. Things like CDNs, DNS, cloud providers, SaaS apps, MarTech services like ad serving and so forth. So you'll see in the demo, this will show you those outages on a spinning globe or a live interactive map. It'll show you which of your services are impacted by those individual outages. You can set up alerts for specific services and specific regions, even if you're interested in those areas. And you can get that data via the our REST API or webhook API. So to put this into context, Catchpoint Internet Synthetics on the left, that allows you to monitor the user experience of your digital services and the internet services that they rely on as well. And Sonar on the right makes it faster, easier, and ultimately cheaper for you to identify third-party services which are experiencing outages across the internet. And we correlate those to the performance of your digital services that you're using. So ultimately, this helps you answer that important question: is it me or is it someone else? That's the first question usually that's asked when you're trying to identify a problem. You know, we sometimes joke about mean time to innocence, but really, if you can quickly determine that your service is down due to some outage with your CDN provider or maybe your DNS or ISP or something else, frankly, it's one less war room for you to spin up. And all of those people who go into that war room, you know, they can sleep through the night or they can spend their time on other things. So let's just look quickly at some of the benefits. They're here on the right. For operational visibility, if you have a problem, again, you want to know, is it me? Is it our stuff? Or is it a problem with some third-party service that we rely on? Or is it something else? So Sonar helps you answer those questions and reduces the time that it takes just trying to figure out, frankly, if this is something you can even fix internally. For governance, we're providing vendor-neutral, unbiased data that we collect from our global network of testing sites, the largest global synthetic testing footprint in the world. So you can hold your vendors accountable. We're not owned by a cloud provider, a CDN or ISP, or a network equipment manufacturer, so there isn't any fox guarding the henhouse situation. It's unbiased vendor-neutral data that you can trust. And finally, on the bottom, you know, if it takes you less time to find a problem, to figure out whether it's you or somewhere else, or at least isolate what your mean time to innocence, you can focus more on things that really matter. So with that, we'll go to a quick demo.
I am showing a live look of various third-party outages that could be impacting how your customers access your mission-critical applications. Internet Sonar leverages Catchpoint's unparalleled and industry-leading monitoring infrastructure to provide you with a glimpse into external issues that affect your business. Without any configuration, we can identify problems related to cloud, SaaS, DNS, CDN, and marketing technologies that you rely on. Gone are the days where you had to scour social media or wait for a vendor to post something to their status page acknowledging that there's a problem. As soon as an issue is detected in a region where your users are based, you will know about it and Catchpoint will notify you. Our services range across all the major marketing, CDN, IaaS, PaaS, unified communications, DNS providers. And not only are we looking at those services at the higher level, we're also drilling down into specific services across various regions and the underlying services that those vendors provide. So in addition to the global view of outages, let's also walk through an example of how this is leveraged operationally on a day-to-day basis. For most organizations, the troubleshooting and triage process starts with some type of an alert or incident notification. Here we're looking at an alert that Catchpoint identified for one of the tests that we're running against our application. Now, if I'm responding to this alert, one of the first things that I need to determine is this problem something that I can fix or my team can fix? Or is it something that's outside of our control, maybe driven by a third-party service, and we need to engage that vendor to help troubleshoot and rectify the problem? Catchpoint's machine learning insights automatically looks at all of the tests that you're running through Catchpoint, and it will identify the third-party services and providers that are being accessed as part of those tests. So right away, when we look at our alert, we'll be able to tell you if there's a problem that is correlating to the services that your test is running against. In this case, we see that there is a related service outage tied to a cloud provider in particular regions that we're running our test from. So right away, without digging any deeper into that alert, trying to figure out what the root cause of the problem is, we know that there is an outside service outage that could be impacting our users. From here, I can click into our smartboard to get additional information about that test. Through our key events, we can see that there have been various test failures across different nodes, and once again, we are identifying that there's a third-party outage that's impacting users in a specific region. From here, I can click into our scatter plot to get a detailed list of every test execution that was run during the time frame that we're looking at. So now I can see every test from the nodes that we've configured to run through Catchpoint. By clicking on a particular failure, it will bring up additional details for that record. So now we can start to look at things like our waterfall chart, being able to understand what objects or images, style sheets, JavaScript files were taking to load and where the delays were occurring from. Here we're seeing DNS delays resolving a particular host. But once again, you'll see that we've correlated an outage that's been detected by Internet Sonar. So all throughout the Catchpoint portal, we're building in the intelligence where if you have a synthetic test that's impacted by a third-party issue, we're going to flag that for you and present it in our smart boards or through an alert. And the whole idea is to make that triage as fast as possible. So that way you can engage with your third-party vendors that are responsible for providing these services. And also, it allows you as an organization to build out the proper contingency plans and backup plans so that way you can maintain business continuity while that problem is being resolved. And this will help to ensure resilience so that way your customers and your business is not impacted.
All right, thanks, Bob. So one of the things I wanted to point out with that is that we're not just showing you internet outages on a great looking dashboard, which you can have up on your NOC. That's nice. But if you're an SRE, IT ops, you're doing the actual work of trying to find where problems are, what's the cause of them. If you're going into our tools like Smartboard or the records to view a waterfall, we'll show you right there, hey, you've got a problem. We've detected an outage with some third-party service that you're using. So let's move on to something else now. Another big capability, Catchpoint Tracing. So just going into that, what is Catchpoint Tracing? Well, it's pretty much stated right there in that first sentence. Catchpoint Tracing provides end-to-end visibility of your distributed applications, whether they're deployed on physical devices, virtual machines, containers, or even serverless. So our goal with tracing is to extend your visibility from customer performance all the way through the internet stack, like you would see with Sonar or your own testing, and into the applications themselves. So if it's a problem on your side, you can determine that before you pull in the development team just by seeing that here. So let's take a look. What that means basically, and our goal here with this is tracing, which is now a part of Catchpoint's IPM platform. With that, you can connect the dots between the end user experience, which you're already testing with synthetic testing, through the internet stack, the performance and availability of third-party services. Again, you can only get that through Catchpoint synthetic testing and our global node footprint and internet sonar, and all the way into the performance of elements within your application stack itself, right down into the code. That's what I meant in the previous slide on true end-to-end visibility. So the tracing alone, that just tells you the health and performance of your application. It's very valuable, it's important, and so forth. And you may already be doing that for your DevOps teams. But that alone doesn't correlate it to the experience that you're measuring that your end users are having. So with Catchpoint, with synthetic testing being proactive and deterministic, I mean, those are the capabilities of synthetic, right? Those are the properties of synthetic testing. Proactive, deterministic. You know what you're testing and when. This allows you to baseline your service performance. It helps you find problems before they impact your users, and then you can troubleshoot those problems wherever they are in your internet stack or all the way down to your application stack. And we'll see that in a moment in the demo. So basically, if you're proactively monitoring your digital service with synthetic testing, you find a problem that is not out in the internet stack, you determine that it's in your application itself, you can drill down, look under the hood of the application to see the tracing within your application all the way down to the code. In addition to that, more than just showing you the details of individual traces, this will give you an overview of the performance of your application itself over time. So you can see things like aggregate latency, response time, and errors of the application, as well as which endpoints are the most time-consuming or have the most errors with them. So, and of course, it's not just limited to tracing of your synthetic tests, but any interactions with the applications itself. We will support tracing for that. We also support open telemetry. I'll say a little bit more about that later. So you should be able to use any OTel agent that you already deploy in addition to Catchpoint's SDK. So with that, let's go right into the tracing demo. And
Tracing is an end-to-end monitoring solution designed for distributed applications running in containerized microservice-based architectures. It allows you to understand the behavior of your applications across the multiple services and associated resources that it interacts with. So you'll be able to get full visibility into every interaction that your application has, regardless of whether you're testing from Catchpoint or not. It's full transparency into the topology of your application. So let's take a look at how this can be leveraged. Here we're looking at a test that resulted in a failure from Catchpoint. In this case, we're seeing an internal server error. As I scroll down, we can see all of the individual steps that happened within our test. So we had an initial page that loaded successfully, but then when I look at page 2, we do see that there is an error. That error resulted in a 500 response code, and it was aligned to this to-dos/add resource. Now that's really helpful, as that helps us to understand what the impact was to our users and at which step in a particular business process we encountered a failure. But what it doesn't do is help us understand what was happening behind the scenes and really what was the root cause of that error. That's where tracing becomes extremely powerful. So by clicking back to our first screen, we've added a new capability right from the record screen that allows us to view the trace of that session. So now we are able to see our trace map. And here I can view all the interactions that the downstream application has with any third-party services. So for example, if there's a database, I'll be able to see that. If there are cache servers, I'll be able to see that. And I can see which one of these interactions resulted in an error. We know that the first step we were able to run successfully, but then the second step is where we resulted in that unauthorized access. So by clicking on any particular interaction, it will show us the trace chart as well as a summary of what that request looked like and the response that returned back. So we know that we had a 500 response code requesting to-dos.add. However, if we look at the second step, we can see that the failure really occurred accessing this to-do service. So by clicking here, I can now see the actual response that we're getting back, in this case, a network unreachable exception. Now, what if we actually wanted to see the line of code that contributed to that failure? And this can be really powerful, especially for API tests. Now, by clicking on our service, we can see all of the traces that were captured associated to that service. So I can click through each one of them. But on one of those traces, we did have a failure. So now I have the ability to look at all of the individual methods that were being called as part of that service. We have a feature within tracing called time travel debugging that allows us to go back in time and jump into the code and essentially step through line by line all of the code that was executed as part of that method or that request. And I can step through to see where the exception actually happened. So really powerful for truly understanding the root cause of an issue. Now, in this example, we were looking at a failure, right? And certainly tracing for one of its use cases can be leveraged to identify the cause of a failure. But there might be other use cases here where the page loads successfully. However, the performance is slow or there's degradation in that performance. So tracing could also be used to identify those types of problems as well. So let's imagine that we had identified this particular database query as being slow. So by clicking on that trace, I can now look at the methods and the calls that were being made to our database and not only see the response time for each one of those traces, but I can also see the select statement that was being used to query the data from that database. So no matter where the failure or the degradation occurs within that page, we're going to be able to trace it back through the services and publicize that so everyone in the key stakeholders can action it.
All right. So,
Matt,
go ahead.
Matt, those are some really powerful features. Curious, what are you seeing hearing from the customers thus far? They've got to be really excited to take advantage of these.
Yeah, absolutely. The companies that I speak with, they're interested in a few things. With Sonar, that question, is it us, is it me, is it our stuff or someone else? That's one of the questions that I get asked a lot when I go and talk to customers. What's the biggest thing on your mind? How can we help you the most? What would save you the most time? What they say is always, is it me or someone else? That's what we need to determine. That's what we need to determine first. In terms of tracing, what we're hearing with that is, tracing is a tool that a lot of companies already use, but from a development perspective to
Yeah.
see, is the application itself performing. What we're really looking to do, and what there's a lot of interest in, is connecting those dots between the end user. It's like that slide that I showed earlier here, if you can see it. That end user, what's their user experience? Companies want to test that. They are testing that. That's the reason for using Catchpoint synthetic testing, and testing from around the world on all kinds of different ISPs, and testing in line with the delivery of service to your end users. That's what people are doing. It's also important to know, if it's not me, if it's not our service, where is it in the internet stack? And that's a question that I'm asked a lot as well. And now the interest in tracing is, well, if it's not that, before I go and engage your development team, I need to know, where is it? Let me confirm that it's in the application, which application, and which part. So it's that end to end.
Yeah, so this gives the IT ops teams access to a tracing tool to really identify the issue pretty quickly.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
awesome.
So it's very exciting. There's a lot. We could speak for the hour on any one of those, but we've got other things as well. Uh, we're always very busy at Catchpoint, and certainly the product and development teams work very hard, and we're always releasing something, every few weeks. So let's go to some of the other improvements that we've rolled out in the last few releases. Many of you already use enterprise nodes. These are Catchpoint nodes that you deployed behind your firewall, on your premises, in your data centers and factories, and all of that. And they provide the full set of synthetic testing capabilities that we offer, all from within your environment. But there's also a need, and it's a continuously growing need, from what I see, for lighter weight nodes that can be deployed more easily in more locations, and just in this case, focusing more on connectivity and network related testing for that location. So that's what enterprise light nodes provide. They have a smaller footprint. They can be deployed in more places where resources may be constrained, like your network hardware or Kubernetes Millicore, and they can scale up to hundreds or thousands of locations more easily for you. So the use case here is, if you have 1,000 branch offices or store locations where you don't necessarily have an IT staff, but it's really important to make sure that the applications and the services that your employees use, or your customers at those locations access, to make sure that those are available and performing properly, again, at those locations, then enterprise light nodes are more free, are right for you. Another great capability, traceroute ECN. So we all know how sensitive real-time applications are to network congestion. If you don't know, ask your kids. Like mine, they're probably playing low latency, low loss games. The standard solution to congestion, dropping packets. We all know what that causes. Retransmission, extra buffering, extra latency, ultimately poor user performance. So to help with the situation, IETF, Internet Engineering Task Force, you probably know what that is. They've defined ECN, explicit congestion notification. This is a pretty simple mechanism. It's where network equipment like ECN-aware routers can indicate if there's congestion instead of dropping packets. The packet receiver on the far end can then echo back that congestion notification to the sender. and the sender can then either reduce transmission rate or take other actions. So what have we done? What we've done here, working with industry leaders, is we've enabled ECN support on our traceroute tests. So we set the ECN bit values in the traceroute. We can do that at the IP layer or TCP. We monitor that value at each hop to see if it's changed. You can see that in the screenshot. And this allows you to see where in the network congestion is forming, how that affects your service performance, and then you can take action, either identify which paths are best suited for your low latency, low loss applications, or take other actions. So this is a new capability. No other synthetic network testing provider offers this. We're very excited about this, and we think this adds a very important arrow in your quiver for monitoring your network performance and the performance of network dependent applications. Another really cool capability also we don't see out there with any other provider. So when you're troubleshooting a problem, what are you looking for? You're looking for what's changed. This can be difficult, especially with HTTP, with website performance. Loading any web page in a browser, that can trigger a whole lot of requests, hundreds of requests. A lot of them look the same. So what are you doing? You're usually comparing what changed, what went wrong, trying to find that needle in a haystack. But in this case, you're usually comparing multiple records or multiple waterfalls. And typically, what do? You're probably arranging them in different windows on your screen. That's a nuisance. Again, finding a needle in a haystack, that's one thing, but here you're comparing multiple haystacks, so it's like a needle in a field of haystacks. So to make that easier, what we're providing now is a simple way to compare side by side different web performance test runs or waterfalls without having to do that, without having to open up multiple browser windows and manually arrange them. So this is like a shopping cart feature. You're probably familiar with that. You select up to 4 test runs to compare. This window will show you them side by side. It's like a code diff tool, but for your web tests. It's built right into records within Catchpoint. So this feature is going to save you time in isolating where those problems are. Another cool capability for our workforce experience solution, we're now providing improved Zoom and Teams call monitoring. So what's different about this? Well, in this case now, we're not relying on these services APIs or some other indirect testing approach to determine what the call quality is and to tell you that. We're actually measuring the call quality directly by monitoring the underlying network flow. So you know what the real actual user experience is for your remote workers, again, without relying on these tools to tell you. So avoiding another fox in the henhouse situation. Expanded Terraform. So when I talk to customers about integration, because everyone has multiple tools in their toolbox, Terraform usually comes up. Terraform is widely used to automate the provisioning and management of your infrastructure, usually with cloud. And a lot of Catchpoint customers use it just to create and manage their synthetic tests as well. So now you can find a Catchpoint provider right in the Terraform registry. With it, you can create and manage a number of tests, including web, API, DNS, and you see as listed here. You can do that with minimal configuration. So for Terraform users, this is a great way for you to automate your testing strategy. Subset network testing. So earlier, I mentioned ECN, and we talked about low latency, low loss applications. So some of the most difficult problems to find and troubleshoot are intermittent micro outages. These are outages, they can occur at any time. They might only last a few seconds. They often are periodic, but if you're looking at smoothed over data or you're testing only infrequently, you're going to miss that. So those outages, particularly the micro ones, hard to detect, but they can have a big impact on your time-sensitive applications. So to help you detect and troubleshoot these problems, we're offering a continuous ping testing at 200 milliseconds, 500 milliseconds, and 1,000 or, well, 1 second intervals. Again, this is a great pairing with traceroute ECN. And the last thing I wanted to talk about before I'll hand it back over to you, Howard, is open telemetry. More and more companies are rallying around open telemetry. It's a great vendor-neutral way of sending and receiving telemetry data, specifically things like metrics, logs, and traces. OTel is not new to Catchpoint. In fact, we've supported this from very early on. We just haven't bragged about it as much, so I'm going to brag about it a little bit here. Today, last year, the year before, a capability that we've had for a good while is our webhook API. This allows you to specify which metrics you want to send northbound from which tests. As that data is collected from our nodes around the world, it's directly forwarded in OTel supported format, JSON over HTTP, to the collectors that you want. Plus, we give you the unique ability to add custom metrics based on any information that's passed through the header of HTTP monitors. So you're not just limited to a simple set of data or metrics. This is the full scope of metrics, plus any custom metrics that you want to pull from your HTTP headers, all with the ability to send it northbound to whatever other observability platforms that you use or intend to use. So we support OpenTelemetry northbound for Catchpoint synthetics. We support ingestion of data for tracing via OpenTelemetry, and we're working on RUM as well. The RUM OTel spec is not quite as mature yet, but we are working with that. With that, Howard, I think I'll turn it over to you to talk about our node network.
Sounds great. Thanks, Matt. Amazing new innovations. I'm sure everybody can see how much we've added to the IPM platform and the capabilities. So thank you to our product team and our engineering team. I think we're really delivering some outstanding new capabilities to continue to advance IPM and be the premier provider of internet performance monitoring for the industry. Now, when we talk about performance monitoring, of course, a lot of it comes back to our observability network, which we are incredibly proud of. We have almost 3,000 eyes. So today it's 2571. This is constantly growing and constantly advancing. Just since our last launch event in May, we have added 60 new nodes in 12 countries, 10 new BGP feeds in 8 countries. So that's just in the last 5 months. It feels like every day we're constantly adding more. And what this means for you all is that it's more ability to test from where your employees are, where your customers are, where you may be looking to enter new markets. Plus, from a BGP standpoint, it's real-time visibility. You're not waiting 15 minutes to see if something's happened, if there's been a BGP hijack. So this is definitely applicable across the organization and something that many of our customers leverage to ensure they're having global coverage and global visibility. What we're seeing is that organizations are starting to truly evolve to more of a digital operations center to ensure resilience. They're monitoring their end user and their employees' experiences globally. They're really staying on top of it to ensure that any sort of disruptions get caught quickly and get minimized, so it doesn't become a major event for the organization. We're also really proud of what we have with our web performance capabilities with web page test. We've got some major new capabilities coming, and it's something that you should all keep an eye out for, because we're going to make web performance enterprise ready. We've got a nice QR code here that you can scan, and you can keep an eye out for what's coming, what's going to happen. But definitely keep an eye out. You're going to see more early next year. Now I'm going to launch a quick poll. So if there is any additional information you'd like from us, if you'd like a demo with an expert, if you'd like to dig into any of these new capabilities further, please go and click on the polls tab, and we'll be able to follow up with you a little more accurately. So hopefully that is open and working. And, we are the Internet Resilience Company. We've been doing this for a very long time. We're working with many of the leading brands around the globe to help ensure resilience, to help ensure their reliability, their availability, the performance of their sites. We've been recognized as a Gartner Customer Choice winner. And ultimately, this was built by the experts for the experts. So we are here to help you all ensure that you're getting the resilience that you deserve, that you're looking for. So with that, if there's any questions that we can answer, looks like the majority have been answered. But Matt, I do see one here where organizations are asking, someone is asking, if I want to get started with Catchpoint, how quick is it to get started?
It's pretty quick to get started, actually. You can set up a test in a minute and receive telemetry data immediately. That's one of the things that I think is very cool. Is right out of the box, we have a variety of overview dashboards and smartboard. If as soon as you're collecting data, that data is going to show up in those dashboards. You can go to Smartboard. Smartboard gives you the information that you need. There's a lot of advanced analytics and AI that go in Smartboard behind the scenes in terms of correlating your information and finding where problems are. And if you have Sonar showing that to you immediately, we detect and correlate not only trend shifts, and we correlate trend shifts with other metrics so we can show you what's going on. And pretty much all of that works right out of the box. The only thing that you need to do is set up some of your tests. If you're working with our services team, we even have services where we can do all that for you. So you can get started pretty quickly.
That's awesome. And I've got one more test, and maybe we'll tease one more question, I should say, not test, and maybe we'll tease something out of this. But somebody's asking if I have Google Cloud, what can you do there that would help me test very quickly on Google Cloud?
So one thing we didn't talk about is we actually have a release today, and one of the things that we're deploying is Google Cloud test suites. So we've done this with our partnership with GCP. What this does is allow you to very quickly click on a button, enter in some basic information, and we will create for you a suite of tests that you can use to monitor Google BigQuery, Google Cloud Spanner, and other services that come with Google Cloud. The test suite capability is something we're going to extend to support other services and even just make it easier for you to set up entire sets of tests that you need without having to create them individually. But right out of the box, as of today, later today, when the release is out, you'll be able to do that. So if you're a user of Google Cloud, you can make use of the test suite specifically for those services and get up and running, monitoring them very, very quickly.
Awesome, that's great. And for all of the folks that are on with us now, thank you for being here. And you heard that first. So Matt, thank you. Really appreciate the time and the great presentation. Thanks to all our attendees and our Q&A staff. Appreciate you taking the time with us today. And if there's any questions, feel free to reach out to either Matt or I or your account team, and we're happy to follow up and get back to you.